The next loop that we will discuss as part of chapter 5 is the do-while loop. The do-while loop is considered to be a post-test loop, meaning that the condition to be evaluated will be evaluated after the loop executes. This is a little bit different as opposed to a while loop, which will be evaluated first and then executed. The format for the do-while loop is a do keyword, open and close curly braces. Of course, within the curly braces, you will have one or more statements. And then at the very end, we have a condition, while, open and close parentheses, condition inside. Notice how there is a semicolon required at the very end of this do-while loop. This is one of the very few instances where you will actually see a semicolon at the end of a structure, of a block structure. So keep that in mind. Usually we don't see a while loop after a semicolon after a condition, but the do-while loop would be the only instance where you will actually see this. It looks basically like an upside down while loop. The while loop starts with the keyword while, condition, open and close curly braces, and then you have the statements inside. The do-while loop, it's upside down, performs at least once even if the condition happens to be false. As opposed to a while loop, which is pre-test, the evaluation will be held before the loop even goes into execution. The do-while loop, first it'll go through the first execution of the loop, through the body of the loop, and then it will test the condition. If the condition happens to be true, then it repeats again. If it's false, then it stops. Use it when you need to execute at least one time. This means if you need to make sure that you execute at least one time the body that is within that loop, regardless of the evaluation of the condition, then you would use a do-while loop. This would mean, or this would be useful if we were to execute a program that the user will decide when to quit. The reason behind it is that we want to display the options to the user at least once. The user should know at least once what are the options for execution of that program and what are the keywords or the values that will be used to control that loop. This is the flow of control of a do-while loop. First, we go into the statements. That's the first block that we will execute. And then we test the condition. If the condition is true, we go back again and perform the statements inside of the loop, and then we test again. If it's false, we finish. If it's true, we continue. The loop will execute always at least once. The execution continues as long as the condition is true. The loop is exited when the condition becomes false. The curly braces are required in the body, within the body of the loop, even if it contains a single statement, as opposed to a for loop or a while loop, where you could get away with not including the curly braces if it's just a single statement attached to that loop. And also remember that there is a semicolon at the very end of the do-while loop required. The do-while loop can be used in a menu-driven program to bring the user back to the menu to make another choice. To simplify the process of user input, you can also use two upper and two lower functions that will allow for you to simplify the evaluation. Let's say you're capturing enter Y or enter N to proceed with the program or to finish it. We have two options, right? Because we have both an uppercase Y or a lowercase y. Using the two upper or two lower functions, we would manage to force the conversion of that character into a lowercase, so we would only evaluate once as opposed to having to check both uppercase and lowercase. This is an example of a menu-driven program, a very basic example. We have the do-while structure, we have the code to display the menu, and then the code to perform the actions, and then we're going to prompt the user. Do you want to make another choice? And we're going to continue while choice equals to uppercase Y or choice is equal to lowercase y, we proceed with another execution. Technically, if the user enters anything other than Y, the program will finish. We would simplify this by using two upper or two lower, those two functions, in order to force the conversion of choice, which is a character, into the uppercase or lowercase equivalent. Regardless of which one you use, it will be converted. If you use a lowercase y and it's converted to lowercase, it'll just preserve the same character. If it's an uppercase y and you use a to lower, of course, it'll convert it into a lowercase y. What exactly is to upper and to lower? They're used to convert a character to uppercase or lowercase. You need to include a library that will be necessary at the very top of your program that will be CC type in order to be able to use our to upper and to lower functions. Why will we use it? Why will we need it? The user can enter either an uppercase or lowercase character. In this case, we simplify the process of evaluation. Instead of having to evaluate for both uppercase and lowercase situations, we just use a single statement. And we have a hands-on program, program 5.9, page 264, and you can download it from Blackboard. It's available so that you can download the code, and we will begin with the lab. I will begin with the hands-on. This is not a lab, it's just a hands-on. We're going to go through the code, we're going to explain it, and then we're going to run to see what happens. Once you download or open the file, this is going to be a hands-on program. You don't have to submit it. This is not worth points. The previous one was. So this is a many different program that will be set up using a do-while loop. It's a program. It's fairly lengthy. The reason for the code to be a little bit lengthy is because we do have a menu here. The menu adds a lot of options. So we start off the program by creating constants, 3 constants, 1 rate for adults, 1 rate for child, and 1 rate for seniors. And then we set up our variables to be able to configure what will be the choices, the number of months, and the charges. So this program will calculate a membership rate for a health club. Depending on the type of membership, it will be either adult, child, or senior. So based on the choices that we have, that is how the choices will be calculated. So we have our code. Our program will be configured using a do-while loop. We have our do-while loop here. Notice how we have the keyword loop, the keyword do, and then we have our structure inside the open and close curly braces. We have the keyword while, and then the evaluation while choice is not equal 4. So we're gonna set up our menu first. The first thing that will be displayed when you run the program is going to be this menu, and then we're going to capture the choice here. We're going to test to see if the choice is a valid one. If choice is less than 1 or choice is greater than 4, then we're going to notify the user, this is not a valid choice, please enter a valid choice. Please enter 1, 2, 3, or 4 based on the menu options that we have provided. And then once the user enters a valid choice, then we proceed. If the choice is not equal 4, then the user decided not to quit the program, so it's going to be a 1, 2, or 3 option, which is adult, child, or senior rate. So at this point, we have an if statement. If the choice is not 4, then we proceed. Else, if it's 4, then it's obvious that the user wants to exit, because that is what the option should be to quit the program. Notice how we set up a switch statement to determine which option or which choice calculation will be performed, and then we have a break in between. This is to prevent this case to continuing to the next one, evaluating, so we have to add a break here. So once we compile the program, once we run the program, I'm going to go through my compiling options, G++, hands-on, -O. In your case, you're going to do this in Visual Studio. Next Wednesday, we'll be running through some, or we'll be actually going through some examples and moving into our Linux environment. So I'm going to run this program, hands-on, Health club membership, enter your choice. I enter choice 1. For how many months? For 12 months. These are my total charges based on the adult membership. I'm going to enter now for child. For how many months? 12. So these are the cost of a membership for that health club. And now I'm going to enter 4 to quit the program. That's it. That's the end of the execution of this program. Again, notice the execution or the configuration of a do while loop. We have the do, we open the brackets or the curly brace, it finishes here. There's a lot happening inside of that do while loop. Basically, when we have a menu-driven program, everything is very likely to happen inside of that do while loop because we want for that program to keep on running until the user decides to exit. And all of the options will be available through that menu or through some sort of evaluation or conditional statement that will make sure that we select the right choice, go into that option, perform the task to be done, and then go back to the main menu.